Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Alundra. Today we'll be spending this entire episode finishing off the reptile lair, and hopefully at the end we'll finally find out what we were doing here in the first place, because frankly the game wasn't really too clear on it. What is abundantly obvious that we've got yet another obnoxious puzzle to deal with. Basically you have to navigate through this maze of columns blindly. You're basically looking to get over to that ledge on the left. You can go south a bit, but that doesn't do anything but bring you basically over to where you would normally have to return from if you fell into the water trying to make this jump over here. You can't really tell, but the platform to the left is a little bit lower than the platform on the right, so you can actually make this jump pretty easily, but again, I find it easier just to try to be safe. Take care of a couple lizardmen before we can actually open the door to the next level. There we go, and down we go. So this puzzle over here is kind of obnoxious. You can only break down these lizardmen sculptures while they flash, but as it turns out, the sculptures will only flash 9 times before they stop and you have to reset the puzzle. It's pretty obnoxious if you don't know what you're doing explicitly, because you don't have a lot of time to mess around. You know, you might take 3 or 4 tries to realize how you're supposed to do the puzzle, and then all of a sudden, if you've missed more than once, the puzzle will just stop working in the middle of it. It might lead the player to believe they've done something wrong when they haven't, and all they have to do is reset it. It's kind of stupid. It reminds me a lot of the falling barrels in the Sand Temple, where the puzzle just needlessly stopped working after a certain period of time. I guess in the long run, though, it was worthwhile, because it brought us back to this room, which is basically the hub of the middle of the dungeon, so to speak. Down there is our save point. Let's go take advantage of that. Again, as usual, I'll show off just the inside of the save room, just to show off what it looks like. We'll save our game. The teleporter up to the north doesn't actually go anywhere useful yet. It just leads to a long corridor with a couple of lizardmen statues and a ledge we can't reach yet. But I'll be showing how we get back to it in reverse. It's one of those doors that open door to before, so to speak, that opens after we progress in the dungeon a bit more. Here we can use the bow the way it's supposed to be used to kill a couple of those lizardmen statues, and that brings us to yet another space-filling room. Yeah, this is, again, similar to the Sand Temple, kind of bad flashbacks. Not really the sort of dungeon you want to be comparing yourself to, considering that was basically the worst experience so far in the game. These enemies are called fire phantoms. They're not too difficult, they're not particularly bright, they just move towards you. You're supposed to use the wooden platforms to avoid them. Not really a puzzle so much as an exercise in time wasting. Again, I should probably actually be using a weapon that does real damage to things. There we go, thank you very much. That treasure chest over there is a strength tonic, so I'll be using it and opening it as soon as I actually take 10 points of damage, which is right there. Spoiler alert. Realistically, I should be using the bombs whenever I'm in combat with the lizardmen, for the same reason that we used bombs in combat with the grogs back in the Sand Temple. You'd think that considering how much I impressed on in the commentary, but how important it was to be able to interject bombs into your combat style at that point, that I would be taking that advice to account throughout the rest of the game, but I guess in general I found the Sand Temple to be so unpleasant that I blocked out even my own post-commentary. You know, whatever. Anyway, I broke the cardinal rule and I let another lizardman spawn off of the statue that I hadn't destroyed yet. Although I guess, considering they all spawn at roughly the same time, it's hard to tell which ones belong to the statues I've already destroyed and which ones will actually respawn, because I believe there is a one-to-one correlation there. Let's pick up these coins before it drives me crazy that they're sitting there on the map later. Kill off these last 2 guys. Really should be using the bombs, because frankly, combat with a lizardman is just incredibly tedious. I mean, you can't go in guns blazing unless you use your little bit of magic left. Yeah, there's a door up there to the north. It's currently locked. Our next objective in this dungeon is to find the key to that door, and in fact, it's one of the last objectives in this dungeon. Move on a little further, and yeah, see, there's we want to get over to that switch and that chest. And in traditional Alundra fashion, there's a switch that activates these lizardmen statues, which is hidden from view from the player until you actually step on it. It's just another jerk trap and a long laundry list of them. Take a minute to show off the water magic, but it's not really as impressive as the rock magic. It does refill most of your health, or all of your health, I think, and produces a small shield of spinning icicles that will destroy any enemy it touches, but it doesn't really have significant offensive use, which is really what you want out of your magic, considering you get so few charges of it. Yeah, we triggered more lizardmen, so what? I do kind of wish, I mean, it's nice to have a combat-oriented dungeon because the action does break up a lot of the platforming and the puzzle solving that we've had to deal with in the game so far, but after a certain point, I mean, there are only 3 variations in the lizardmen, and the game does throw them all in our path pretty early on, so there isn't really a lot to see. It's different as we sort of progress through the dungeon as a whole. Yeah, over here on this side, we can use the statues that we the pedestals that we knocked the Lizardmen off of by making them sort of alive. To jump over here and get to the switch and a life vessel. And now we can head back to the north, now that we've opened the door, or I should say we've actually given ourselves a platform that allows us to access the stairs out of here. To the next room. Yeah, another switch. Basically the same puzzle. We want to activate some of these Lizardmen statues and then use the pedestals to jump up onto that ledge. Although in this case, first we have to destroy the generating statue, and let's get that one, and there's one down here too, so let's take them both out so that guy isn't spitting at us while we're up on that ledge. You can see there's an indent in the platform to the south, too. That's sort of a clue that there's eventually also going to be a switch in there. This is another one of those rooms where you have to chain switches together, so yeah. First we'll get the bow on, and destroy the statue in advance before it activates so that we don't have to worry about fighting off those Lizardmen as well. Hit that switch, and get the second one. Here we can use the Lizardmen statue itself as a step. Can't go down here yet, that room is still locked, but we can go here to the left. This corridor actually leads back to the teleporter in the room with the save point, so I'm going to take a minute to go back here and sort of top my health back off again. And of course, thanks to the miracle of television, we're back. I really should pick up that health pickup. You I'm ignoring. Alright, 8 Lizardmen statues, none of them came to life. Whoopee. That means we got off scot-free, right? Right? Oh, a switch. Oh boy. Lizardmen ambush. What a shock. So here we'll use the ice magic again, just to show off that you can in fact actually kill enemies with it, even though we didn't the first time around. Really, if I wanted to use magic, I would want to use the rock magic. To be quite frank, my first playthrough of the game back when I was younger, I mostly used the water magic specifically because it was a healing spell. I mean, generally speaking, when I was younger and sucked at games, I guess I used the healing spells as a crutch, so to speak. Ideally, if you have an offensive magic spell that does a much more efficient job of clearing the room, then you don't have to worry about healing spells because you shouldn't be taking that much damage. But you know, it's definitely I would consider it to be a noob mistake on my part to have done that. Using the water scroll for this particular room, especially using it badly when I hadn't really taken that much damage, definitely sort of giving me some flashbacks of my younger years as a gamer, back when I originally played this game. Alright, so we're actually in a bit of trouble. We're down to only 10 points of health, but this guy's pretty easy to kill. Yeah, just get around his shield, and that's the end of that. Notice that even though you can see the room to the left, the game still gives you a short loading screen. You wouldn't think the game needs to load the map to the left, considering it's already there, you can already see it. I'm not really sure what the deal is. The game in general treats these sort of the doors inside caves in a really weird way. Anyway, hitting that switch, top off our health again, hitting that switch gives us access to this door to the south. We can move to the next room. You actually do have to kill all of these Lizardmen in order to progress with this room. It's another one of those rooms where you have to kill everybody to unlock the stairs, similar to the very first room that we were in this particular episode. But since we have just topped off our magic, let's jump right in the middle and use the rock magic. Awesome. We even get some health pickups for our trouble. And all we've got left now, okay, we've got one sword guy and one spit guy. The spit guys are obviously pretty easy to kill. Let's get this guy out of the way. Come on. Lizardmen have a weird AI. They, despite being extremely aggressive for enemies, they don't always head straight at you, and it's really easy to throw them off the track. Alright. More statues. Let's go ahead and get the statues right away, because for some reason the Lizardmen are not really bothering us. Again, strange AI. I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, you can still see the plate on top of the stairs in the upper right-hand corner, so of course you've still got to kill the Lizardmen. At some point along the line, I also forgot that the best way to take care of the ranged guys, the spear guys and the spit guys, are to back them up against the wall. And in fact, the spitting guys, if you try to hit them directly while they're in the middle of the floor, they actually have a really good line to hit you, because they'll jump back just like those guys and immediately sort of send a spear or some spit your way while you're in the middle of your attack animation. The spear guys aren't really a big deal. They don't really do that much damage. If you noticed during that particular combat, I only took 1 point from the spear and 2 points from direct contact with them, which is, I think, the least out of any of the Lizardmen. Yeah, I could break down this wall, but it's not really necessary. In fact, I think it actually makes it harder to get to the next area. Just use them as stepping stones. Alright, more Lizardmen. I don't care about you at all. Moving on. This room is weird. So there are a lot of rooms in the game that are easier to traverse going in reverse than they are going forward. This is one of those rooms for a strange reason. This platform here is the higher of the two that we're going to be traveling across, and it also spawns in a really strange place. It's really awkward to get to when you first hit the switch. However, the platforms spawn in really easy and obvious places to get to when you're traversing this room in the opposite direction, and we're going to be heading back in this direction off-screen. It's kind of a dumb way to make a room easier when you're backtracking. I mean, realistically, the only challenge is waiting for the actual platform. So, I don't know. It seems badly designed to me. Alright, this room. Look at those spiked balls jiggle. It's also really weird. Yeah, in the comments of one of my previous videos, someone pointed out that whenever I say the word spiked balls in reference to some of the obstacles in this game, they giggle. And I have to admit, I had never made that association before, and now that I've heard that, that's the only association I can make mentally with that. Yeah, these guys don't come to life. I really should not be looking gift horse in the mouth here. Let's just take our Gilded Falcon and get the heck out of here. I don't know why I'm trying to activate the statues. There's no reason to. Just leave. Yeah, there we go. Alright, but these guys do activate. Now, what we want to do is destroy only the 4th statue, because that's the only one that's actually destructible. But notice we can't do that yet. All 7 Lizardmen have to spawn, and you have to kill them all. Or at the very least, you have to activate them all before you can destroy the middle statue. Remember back where we saw the other large Lizardman statue? Yeah, rock magic rocks. Literally. Ha! So remember that we saw that other statue blocking the path and a sign that said the keep of the twin Lizardmen or whatever. That means you have to destroy this statue because even though they're obviously the same statue, only this one is actually breakable for whatever reason. Yes, pretty standard video game logic, I suppose. Now that we've done that, we can backtrack through all these rooms. And as you can imagine, the other statue is now out of the way. Shouldn't swim here. There's no reason to swim. I can just jump right to the platform in the middle of the water. Yeah, thank you very much. I knew I was right. Right, back up we go. This backtracking in general is short enough that I don't really feel like it's necessary to cut it out. So yeah, moving over here, this is now open. Bunch of Lizardman statues, I wonder what we have to do. So, these can't be destroyed with the Hunter's Bow like the spawning ones do. You actually just have to trigger them by walking up to them. And it's entirely trial and error. I really have nothing else to say about the Lizardmen at this point anymore. It's the same guys over and over and over again. Nothing changes. You fight them exactly the same, except this time the game is almost laughing at you. The game is thumbing its nose at the fact that it's making you fight the same guys over and over again, because now you can just walk right back to that health refill point and top yourself back off again every time I take damage from these guys. And honestly, they don't really show up in that many more dungeons, if I recall correctly, so I'm not really learning, I'm not really getting better at the game by fighting these guys this much. This crack in the wall takes 4 bombs, but it has to be 4 separate explosions, which is just another huge waste of time. Although, I should note right there, I took only 3 points of damage from my own bomb, as opposed to the usual 5, which means, thankfully, someone remembered to code in the fact that my armor should protect me from my own bombs. What's on the other side of this door, you should ask? Not progress, but in fact, the exact opposite of progress. 10 more Lizardmen. We do have an answer to this. Remember, we do have a magic elixir, and I do have a lot of money, and as I said before, now that we have the 2 life vessels that we got from the shops, we basically have no use for money anymore, but to top off our items, so we might as well use the magic elixir, get my 2 charges of magic back, and use them to take out some of these large groups of enemies. I mean, I'm definitely in the camp where I find really powerful items like the magic elixir and the wonder essence too good to use, so they tend to sit in my inventory, but I'm trying to be at least a little bit more intelligent about my use of that while on this particular playthrough of the game. Anyway, we picked up the key back to the locked door way back in the dungeon that I pointed out quite some time ago, so let's just skip back. Another health restore point. No magic restore points, I guess that would be too good. Except in the save point, I guess. And here we are. This is the boss room, probably. At the very least, it's the biggest lizard statue we've ever seen in this dungeon so far. What do you have to say? 1,000 crushed souls, alright, I can deal with that. Crushed souls turns out to be very accurate. First thing we'll do is do some crowd control. The statues in the corners spawn sword lizardmen, and they cannot be destroyed, meaning that the sword lizardmen will spawn indefinitely. There will always be 4 of them in this fight. The large lizardman has exactly 1 attack, which is to jump around and occasionally do that really big stomping move, which will usually freeze both you and the lizardman, which basically makes it practically worthless as an attack. The other Lizardmen will move slightly, will regain the ability to move slightly faster than you do, but they don't really jump nearly as often as you do either, meaning it's much easier for you to avoid the side effects of that attack than it is for them. The 2 spitting Lizardmen that spawn from the center statues can be killed, and I really should be killing the other one right now. But I guess I never really thought about that. I kind of assumed that the rock magic actually killed the non-spawning guys, but I wasn't really paying attention. This guy, just like all the other bosses in the game, takes a huge number of hits, and he can actually heal, which we'll see later on in the fight. So there isn't too much to do but to try to sort of knock him in between 2 of the statues, because like a lot of really large enemies in sprite-based games, he does kind of tend to get hung up on corners because his diagonal movement isn't really as well programmed as it should be. Yeah, see, there we go. See, we're all frozen. They move slightly before I get to move again, but again, since the Lizardmen don't immediately move towards you at all times like most enemies do, they're actually not that hard to avoid. The only guy who's actually a threat, again, is the spitting guy because he is the longest range in his attacks. So yeah, as I said, the guy's kind of stuck in between, yeah, the top statue and the middle statue on the right side, and eventually he finds his way out. Check that out. He does 4 points of damage on contact, which is actually quite a lot. I'm actually going to use my strength elixir here under the assumption that I can buy another one pretty easily from either Naomi or from Lurvy. I believe the magic elixir costs 100 gilder to replace, and the strength is something like 50. I don't know, I'll double check later. I'll show the shop, I guess, on the next episode, or whenever I get back to it. Yeah, you can jump to dodge. Oh, there we go. Okay, he's using his healing move. You can hear him. That means this fight's going to take a little longer than it should. I don't believe he heals a full or anywhere close to it. There's also a short delay when he goes to his healing mode before he can actually damage him, which is kind of weird. I'm not sure exactly what the mechanic is for avoiding the earthquake move. I've noticed that hit stuns seem to stop it from happening, but even when I'm not hit stunned, I seem to be able to jump very slightly after he actually hits the ground and still avoid the effect of the stun. I don't know. There's a lot of loose programming in this game. I don't really know what to tell you. I'm doing my best. Alright, one more time. As he gets closer to dying, he actually moves into his healing pose a lot more often, which makes it a lot easier for us to land a few free hits on them as long as we're paying attention, especially once we get down to just 4 melee Lizardmen. But in any case, we have now killed the boss, the Reptilicus Maximus, as we're about to see, which is Latin for I don't know how to say giant lizard in Latin. Why are we here? Well, I guess we'll find out on the next episode of Let's Play Alundra after this victory music. I will see you then.